Hi guys, and welcome to another video. In today's video we're gonna have a look at 4 rook ending positions, also rook versus pawn, and I will show you important principles you really need to know when you want to play rook endings successfully. So let's start with this one. It's white to move, and the question to you is, how can white win this one? His king is really very far away from the action, so there is one pattern you must know: how you can win such type of positions without the king. So we will continue with the solution, which is rook to g5. It's called cutting off the king along the 5th rank, and this is basically winning the position with the rook alone. Why is this? Let's have a look what black can try. He can push the pawn, but now if we would just wait, black can never progress with the pawn, because then the distance between pawn and king is too far. We could attack the pawn needs to go further, and the pawn is lost. So basically black has no counterplay. He can move the pawn 1 square but no further, and white has all the time to finally bring the king to the corner, and the rook is just waiting here. And it's really important, there is no counterplay. You never need to be worried. The only thing you need to remember is the rook must stay on the 5th rank. This is just working if it's the 5th rank, because if we were on g4 and king and pawn would be here, then it would be too fast, as you can convince yourself quite easily. So that's it for the first position. We learned the motive of cutting off the king along the 5th rank. So let's continue with this one. Here it's black to move. Black's pawn is 1 square away from queening, but black is in check. And you can think yourself again, how would you defend this position? And we will continue with the solution. So basically there are just 2 options, which is king b1 and king c1, because all other options drop the pawn immediately. So actually both moves are drawing the game, but one is a bit easier than the other one. So let's start with the easy one, which is king b1. After king b1, all white can do is bring the king closer, because rook checks just lead nowhere, as there is king to a2 and the pawn threatens to be a queen again. So white can bring the king, but maybe if you have not spotted it before, you can spot it now. How can black draw? And it's king to a1, because capturing the pawn would lead to stalemate and there are no real other tries. Check, then we can get a queen. So this is drawing quite easily, but also king c1 draws. And after king c1, the best chance by white is again bringing the king, threatening checkmate. If you are not familiar with this and you think black is losing now, try to think what are his options here. And yes, it's queening the pawn but taking a knight. So yeah, promoting the pawn and taking a knight, because it's with check, and now white has no time going rook h1. In general, what you need to know about rook versus knight endings is 2 things. If the knight is in the corner, it's always lost, because the knight will just be dominated, there will be Zugzwang, and the knight will finally be lost. The second thing you need to know is, in all the other cases, never separate the knight from the king. For example, in such situation, you should never play something like knight e4 check, because there is a risk that you will lose the knight, because it's no longer safe. You just keep it very close to the king, and in general you should be safe and always make the draw. Of course, play goes on. That's why I consider the stalemate to be the cleaner way to draw. Let's go with the third example, which is this one. Here it's white to move, and black again is having a passed pawn, which might seem very fast, but in this case the white king is already quite close, and yeah, white is winning here, but the question is how. So take your time, think about the position, and we will continue with the solution. If you want to think again, you can take it as a hint to think about where is the rook ideally placed. We continue with the solution, but we will first consider some things. So where is the rook ideally placed? In general, it is ideally placed here because it's slowing down the black pawn. So let's try this. Rook to g8, g3, king is coming, g2. Now, okay, the pawn is threatening to queen, so we need to give a check to prevent it. But black can hold the draw by several moves. For example, king to e1 or king to g3. And there is no way to prevent queening really, and it's a draw. So we didn't really slow down anything. So in this position, it's important to give an intermediate check. Now black needs to make a choice. Either he goes to the e file, kind of blocking away the white king, which is very important, or going to the g line, but then the white king can approach easily, and the black pawn also cannot progress as easily. So the better try in general is to body check the white king with something like king to e3. Now the white king cannot approach, but now we get this rook g8 in, and now it becomes very useful because we not only prevent the pawn from going forward, but we also force the black king to f3. Comparing this with the initial situation where the rook is on a8 and the king is on f2, white improved the rook and even made the black king stand on a worse square. So this is very crucial, and now white is having time to bring the king closer. Black needs to go on with the pawn, but now we kick the black king away and the white king can finally approach, and then we get a winning position. Let's have a look at this. For example, black could play rook to g8, pawn is going there, and if you want you can try to figure out the win here on your own, but I think it's quite straightforward, although we need to pay attention to one trick. He's again trying to stalemate, but in this case we can just check and come here, and after king f1, check, king needs to go there again, and then we can just wait, king needs to go here, check, and we come from this side and there is no stalemate anymore. So what do we learn from this position? Basically we learn two things. White should try it with the rook from g8. Coming here with the rook, it would not win the game. You can also think about this on your own. And the second thing is the defensive side always needs to prevent the opposite king from coming closer to body check the opposite king, because otherwise, the king is coming too close and the pawn is likely to be lost. But in this case, we forced the black king away, and so we could approach our king and finally win the position. So let's continue with the last example, which is this position, and my question to you is, it's black to move, and how can black save the game? We continue with the solution, and the right answer is king b2. Why not a2? Because after rook b8 check, king a3, the king is on the rim, and after king c2, I threaten to win the pawn, and queening will drop the queen, because after rook a8, king b4, rook a1, and also promoting to knight won't save the game. If you remember our rule, if the knight is in the corner, it's always lost. Then we see an example for this. the knight can never come out because we control those two squares, and black can basically just wait, but we also make a waiting move, and he is again in Zugzwang as king a3 is just a mate. So a2 we can eliminate as a candidate. What else is there? Not really much. Seems kind of weird to put a king in front of the pawn because white could approach his king and there is no real progress. Let me just show a line. White is loses. King c2, rook a1, check, and just a waiting move, and he will be checkmated. So of course the other candidate is king b2, and here white can try those two checks, and we will see how to answer them. Okay, first one is rook to b8. What's your intuition? Where does the king need to go? The right answer is we go to c1 to prevent the white king from entering. And this is actually the only drawing move. We body check the white king. He cannot come closer. And next we will play a2. If he threatens our pawn, we will just come back and defend and then play a2. If he's giving a check, we go to c1 again. Okay. If he gives a check on g2, where would you go? The right answer is go to b3, because we don't want to go to the rim, because the white king can come closer and we would soon be checkmated here, because a2 is already impossible due to rook g1 mate. So in both situations we don't need to go very much forward or close to the pawn. The most important thing in such situations where the white king is also very close is to block it away and prevent it from coming even closer. There is a third thing we need to check, which is king d2, but here we can go further with the pawn, and after rook b8 we can no longer body check, but we can play rook a1, and now it's a stalemate if he doesn't move the rook. But if he moves the rook, we come out again and we reach a draw, for example, by a repetition. So that's it for this Rook Endgame class, and I hope you learned something new. Feel free to comment below if you knew the motives and which other motives you want to see. And I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.